Not
Just
yet.
put off your microphones, please. Okay, I'll start 10:05, and because there was about 90 people that were waiting, so let me just give the other people a bit of time to get on. I also struggle to get in. I'm not sure what is the problem with Zoom. So we'll start in 2 minutes. You can see the PowerPoint screen. Can you just indicate in the chat, please? Okay. Okay, let me start, then the other people can just catch up. Okay, the webinar will be from 10 to 11. It's for the SBL students. It's on quantitative analysis with SPSS. I'm Henny Gerber. I'm a statistician at SBL. I'm available on Fridays, so you can contact me via email, and then we can have consultation sessions on Zoom. There's a lot of students, so you must just fall into the queue, but you can just send me the email, and then we can have a consultation for an hour or so if you need any advice or help. Okay, if you can just all put off your microphones and the video, that there's no problem with the bandwidth. And then please ask your questions in the chat. Okay, we will look at a data analysis cycle. So the first thing you need to do is you need to read in your raw data from Excel. So it's in Excel format. It's in a certain format. We will look at that. Then you read it into SPSS. Then we'll look at data labeling. Then we look at verification and cleaning of the data, but very quickly because there's not much time. Then we will look at validation and reliability of the questionnaire that you'll use or the measuring instrument. Oh, sorry, it's very dark here. I'm working on generator, the power is off. Okay, then we will look at calculating construct scores. This construct scores is calculated after you've done the validation of the questionnaire. We will look at that calculation. Then we'll look at descriptive statistics very briefly. Then what you do is you do exploratory data analysis. We will not have time for all of that, but that's the next step in the data analysis cycle. You use graphical techniques for that, certain graphs, and only then do you answer your research questions by using the relevant statistical techniques. So we will not look at all of this. We'll just look at a subset quickly because there's not much time. Okay, and there's my information if you want to attend the online course. Okay, let me go to the questionnaire first. This is an example from 2018. Some of you are using this questionnaire, standardized questionnaires from Prof. Piet Venter. Now this questionnaire, okay, let me just make it bigger. This is about the perceived quality of strategic management. Now, if you look at a questionnaire, there's the biographical information. We will look at that. Then you start with your constructs that you measure by using Likert scale questions. So in this section, we have the quality of strategic management. So strategic management consists of different constructs or concepts or dimensions or factors. It's all the same thing, or themes. Now, in this case, The validation was done by Prof. Piet Venter on a huge data set because you need a lot of data to do it. So we will not do validation. I will just explain the process and how it was done. So then the validation was done on this 28 questions, the Likert scale statements, and it come to 3 constructs from these 28 Likert scale questions, or 3 dimensions, which was strategic leadership, strategic objectives, and core competencies. And then what you'll do is you'll know which questions is part of which construct, and then you can use that questions to create a score, a construct score. Okay, and then I just took out some of the sections. This is just for today. Then these tools of strategic management, we will not look at this, which is another section. Then you get strategic decision making, another section. We will not look at that. And then you get organizational performance. There's only 3 questions testing organizational performance. But then these 3 questions can be combined into one score, and we can use that score as a dependent variable in, say, if you do a regression or something like that. So this is the questionnaire we will work with. Okay, then before we go to the, we will go to the data set before we read it in. Now I want to show you the validation. So the validation, this was done by Prof. Piet Venter on the bigger data set because you need a lot of data to do the validation. So exploratory factor analysis is done. And this is just measures to see if it's viable to do a factor analysis. So if this KMO value here is above 0.5, it's viable to do the factor analysis. So in this case, we can say it's viable to do a factor analysis here. And then the next step would be to decide on how many factors there is in the factor analysis. And for that, you look at the eigenvalues, which is this here, this first part here, the eigenvalues here. You look at the eigenvalues must be greater than 1, the cumulative percentage of variance, and the scree plot. So in this case, the eigenvalues indicated 3 components or 3 factors or 3 dimensions for this 28 questions now. So it can be extracted to 3 factors can be extracted here, and that's strategic leadership, strategic objectives, and core competencies. And 68% or 69% of the variance in the data is accounted for by these 3 factors. You don't have to know all of this. This is just background. In this case, this was already done. Okay, then the next step is, you know, there's 3 factors now for the factor analysis. Then the 3 factors is extracted and you look at the factor loadings. So the factor loadings will tell you where do the specific factor, the questions load. So if you look at that first one there, I think it's a bit small, let me make it a bit bigger. Our organization has clear long-term objectives. That's the first question. Now that question loads onto the second component here because the loading is 0.83. If the loading is above 0.4, we consider it as loading onto a component. So all these in blue is then loading on the second component, all these in blue. And all these in red is loading on the first component, and then on the third component, only these 2. Then the next step would be for you to give names to these questions. So if you look at these 2 questions together, what does it mean if you can come up with a common theme for this? And then they said that the common theme for these 2 would be core competencies. So if you look at these 2 questions, we have the right technology in place to successfully implement our strategy. We have the right competence in place to successfully implement our strategy. So that's core competencies. And then the blue here, the second one was strategic objectives, and then strategic leadership was the red. So that's the validation process. In the second step, most of you will not do validation. That was already done. You must just know what is this structure here in order for you to calculate the construct scores to go further. Okay. Then the next step is calculating the Cronbach Alpha. Somebody's microphone is on. If you can just mute it, please. Then the next step is looking at the reliability. So now you know from this questions here, there's three constructs that you can use in your theory, which is strategic leadership, strategic objectives, and core competencies. So now you want to see what's the reliability of the questions of these constructs. So for that, you use the Cronbach Alpha. Now, you must do this calculation even if you don't do any validation. So now with the Cronbach Alpha, you get the Cronbach Alpha coefficient. If this Cronbach Alpha coefficient is above 0.6, it means that that construct is reliable, or the questions testing that construct is reliable. So in this case, this was the first one on strategic leadership. Let me just make it a bit smaller. So all these questions was on strategic leadership coming from the validation. And that this was put into the reliability analysis for the Cronbach Alpha. And then we get a value of 0.96. So you know that these questions is reliably measuring the construct, which is in this case strategic leadership. So you will be able to calculate the score. But we will do this part practically. We'll do the reliability analysis in SPSS practically. So this is the process. Okay, before I go into SPSS, I just want to ask if there's any questions at this stage on this validation process. If there's any quick questions, you can just ask, put on the microphone and ask me quickly. Or you can put a comment. There's no questions, I can move on to SPSS. You can just let me know in the comments. You could see this PDF file clearly with when I explained the validation. If you can just indicate quickly in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, we can see it clearly, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now let us go to the data set. So this is the raw data set in Excel. I'll just open that quickly. Okay, if you look at the data set, this is a bit small. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so the format of the data set must be in the columns you have the questions, in the rows you have the respondents. Only one answer in a column. So you cannot split different answers in different columns. Like say if you have a Likert scale question, it must be only one answer in the column. So then in the first row, you have the names of the variables. Don't put in like long questionnaire names of questions, the whole sentence. Don't put that in, just make it easy by A1, A2, or Q1 and Q2. Because otherwise, if you go in the statistical package, you'll struggle to see where your data is or your variables is and just browse up and down all the time. Now, if you look at this here first, that's your ID. There was identifier for the student. And then that was A1 was the first question, the questionnaire. That was the biographical information going up to A6. And then B2_1, that was that construct we looked at about the quality of strategic leadership of the 28 questions. If you look at that, there's the 28 questions. And then there was another construct that was tested. And then this questions here is about organizational performance, these three. And then there was a few biographical information there also. So in the first line, you have your variable names, and then from the second line, you have your respondents. Now, I just want to clean this quickly. If you look at this here, you can see it's on the left, this 20 here and the 70. So in Excel, it picked it up as a character. So you must just set it, just set the format here. Otherwise, when SPSS will read it in, it will read it in as a character. So we just want to make it numbers. And there's no decimal places. So picking this up. Okay. Yeah, SPSS is, sorry, Excel is messing around here. Let me just do a copy and paste quickly. Okay, just do a copy and paste. Just to fix this issue here. Sorry. Let me just try again. You can see this green arrows here is stating that it's on the left, so it picks it up as a character. So when you do this yourself, it will mess up your, when it reads into SPSS, it will make a mess.
I can do.
Okay. Okay, I'll just leave this for now. I don't know what's the problem with SPSS with Excel, because it must picks it up like that. So just fix it. I don't have time now to do this by hand. I don't know why it does this. But if it's in this format, it will not work. It must pick up the 20 and the 70 here, because this was figures. So just fix this if you have this in your data set. And then on the bottom, in this case, the person calculated mean, standard deviations, and all of that. So all of this must be deleted. All of this must be deleted. So there must be nothing in there. And on the right-hand side, when you move to the right, there must be nothing in there. And then if there's this arrows, just fix this in Excel. I don't have time to do this now, and we will not use this in the analysis, but just make sure this is correct. And then if you have any nulls there like that, that's usually indicating missing values, so rather make it blanks. So just, you can do a search and replace. I don't have time to do this thoroughly, I just do it now quickly by hand. But just fix this also. Otherwise, SPSS will treat this as a character when it reads it in. So just make sure your data is clean, like in this case now, before you read it in. So in the first row, we have the names, and then in the second row onwards, the respondents, and in the columns, we have the variables. So now we can save this. I'll just call this correct and save it. It's only this one here that's problematic. You must just fix this if you have continuous data like this. This was the number of people in the organization or something like that. Okay. Okay, so what we'll use is we'll use this correct raw data set now when we import it into SPSS. So now I want to open SPSS. I already opened it because I don't want to waste time with the webinar. So you just open SPSS. You'll see it looks like Excel. Now we want to import it. So we go to File, we go to Import Data, and we go to Excel. File, Import Data, Excel. Then we browse to where it is. Mine is on the desktop. I take correct raw data set. You'll see there's the file name, files of type Excel. if this is not set to Excel, it will not see the Excel files, or you must just put it to all files, like that. But sometimes people, it's not set like that, and then you don't see anything here. So we choose Excel and click on open. Okay, you see this is the import wizard. It says here, read the variable names from the first row of data. That's already the case, so that's fine. And then you can see here, there's a problem with that data set, that variable I talked about, but we will just ignore this for this session. Then you just go to the right to make sure you ended at the last variable, G4. That was the last one in the data set. So you know this is fine. So you can just click on OK. Okay, now it shows you the output window in SPSS. This is the output window. So when you do anything in SPSS, your output will be shown here in the output window. I just go back to the data window again. So now it has imported the data into SPSS in an SPSS format. You see on top is the variable names. And then from the first row, we have the first respondent. And in this case, there was only 55 respondents. Now, if you look at the bottom of the file, sorry, I must just get this zoom out of the way. It's in my way now. Okay, there's a data view and a variable view. The data view is where you see your data. In the variable view is where you change things on your variables. And that's what we'll do next with the labeling. Okay. And then when you go to the right, there's all your variables already in. Okay, so the next step now is the data is in SPSS. We want to just save this. You can see it's called Untitled here on the top. So we just want to save it quickly. So we save it as a SPSS data set. So we call this just call it SPSS data set, and we save it. So now it's in SPSS format. So next time when you want to open it, you just go to File, Open Data, not File, Import Data anymore. It's already in SPSS format. So if you look at the data, just see there it's stored. SPSS data set, and there's the raw data set. Okay, so now the next step is to do the labeling. So you click on variable view. In Windows, I think it's on the top, the bottom left corner. And now we want to do the labeling with the variables. Okay, in the first place here, there's the variable name. You just keep it like it is. There can be no special characters or any spaces in here. Then the type is the variable type. We want to work with numeric because we work with quantitative data. So all of it will be numeric. If it's string, you cannot analyze it. Then the width, that's just the width of the how it's stored. So you can ignore that. There's decimals if there's any decimals. And there's the label. So here you can put in the label of, let me just take this away. Here you can put in the labels from your questionnaire. So if you look at question A1 here, we just go to the data view. A1 is this one here. And that was in the questionnaire. A1 was this first question here. Which of the following best describes the type of organization you work for? So the numbering usually goes from left to right. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you give this labels to the numbers accordingly. Then 1.2 was the full-time employees. So in this case, one would be privately owned enterprise. So what we would do here is we go to the data, the variable view. Okay, sorry, let me just go back to the questionnaire. This was the type of organization. So the label here would be type of organization. You don't put in all the labels. You leave all the labels for these Likert scale questions. You leave that out. It will just mess you around. So you just put in labels for your biographical information. Then this label will be shown in the output instead of A1. Then the next thing is to give the value labels to the numbers. So you can click on this here. So just to show you the labels again. This is the label. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1 is privately owned, 2 is public. I'll just do 2 here, just as an example. So in the values, in Windows here, that will be a blue box. You click on this blue box, and then you say 1 is private, and 2 is public. And then you go on with the rest of the labels, all 8 of them. So in this field, you put in the value labels. Then missing, you can just ignore in columns and alignment. Then this measurement is very important. That's how your data is measured, or your variable is measured, your question. In this case, type of organization, that's a categorical variable. And it's nominal because there's no order in it. It's just different types of organizations. So you can stick with nominal here. So you just click on this, and then you can change it to nominal, ordinal, scale. When it was categories, but there's an order in it, then you make it ordinal. And then when it's continuous data, like say, this number of people working at an organization, then it would be scale. And your construct scores that we will calculate will also be scale. In this case, we leave it at nominal because it's categorical, it's different, the type of organization, the different types you can get, and there's no order in it. Okay, let me just go back to the data view that you can see what happened. So we work with this question now, A1. You can see there, it shows the type of organization now. So in the output, it will show type of organization instead of A1. And then if you click on this toggle button here, you'll see this red here, the toggle button. You can put on the value label. So there it picks up private and public. And this will also be shown in the output. Now you do this and go through your data set and do it for all the variables. We don't have time to do it for all the variables. So I'll just show you maybe another one, and then we stop. Say, if you look at the questionnaire again, how many full-time employees do you work in an organization? There's no label involved here because that's the number of employees. So that's a number. So there's no labeling involved. So you'll not do labeling there. Now, next one, what is the core business of your establishment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 1 is agriculture and fishing. Then which country? 1.4, then 1.5, which best describe your position in your company? Director, senior management, manager, middle manager, entry-level manager. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let us do this one. 1 is director and 2 is senior manager for 1.5. So 5, it was position, and 1 is director, and 2 is senior manager, and then the rest. I don't put in all of it because we don't have time for all of that. And then position, if you reason that position is in an order, then you can make this ordinal. Okay. Okay, so this is your labeling step. You do this in the variable view. That's the second step, to do labeling. So we did the import first. By looking at file, import data, we go to Excel. And now the second step was clicking on variable view to do the labeling. So the most important part here is to put in the label, and you'll just do it for the biographical information here and maybe here at the end. You don't do it for the Likert scale questions. And then you do value labels in this column, and you do the measurement type. Now let me just do the Likert scale questions before we go on. B 2.1 here is the first Likert scale question. So that relates to, in the questionnaire, relates to this 2.1 here. Our organization has clear long-term objectives. And the scale is 1 to 5, the Likert scale going from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just label this first question quickly. Okay, so this is 2.1. We will not put in a value label here. You just stick to the 2.1. Then we'll do the value labels here. So the value is 1, and it's strongly disagree. And then 2 is disagree. Then 3 is neither. And then 4 is agree. And then 5 is strongly agree. Strongly agree. Okay, so that's the Likert scale, the labels for the Likert scale. And you do it for all these Likert scale questions if the scale is obviously the same for this 28. So what you could do here is to spare your time. You just right-click on this, right-click on it, copy, and then you just paste it. Paste. So now it's done for all of them at once. So when we go back to the data view, there is all of it. Okay. Now, we just want to save it. So you can just click on this button here to save it. And you'll see there's no star here. So it indicates the newest version is saved. So now we imported the data and we are done labeling. Now the next step is to do verification and cleaning. I will not go into that a lot. I'll just mention what you do. So what you do is with verification and cleaning is you want to see if there's any options that's marked that's wrong. So you go to analyze, you go to descriptive statistics, and you go to frequencies here. So with frequencies, if it's categorical data, you can calculate frequencies and percentages. And if it's continuous data, you go to descriptives here. So continuous data would be like that, say the number of people working at the organization. Now let us just choose frequencies here. And then what you do is you choose all the variables that's categorical on the left-hand side. Now in SPSS, when you want to work with anything, you get a dialog box like this. your variables is on the left-hand side, and you move it to the right-hand side, and then all the calculations will be done on the variables on this side here. So you can move them one by one by clicking on them and move them over, or you can push down Control in Windows and do a lot of them at once. Or if it's in a sequence, you can push down Shift. So I would use Shift. I'll just leave these ones that didn't work well when we read in. Now I click on this variable here. I push down Shift, and then I move down up to the last one. And now I keep down Shift and click on the last one. And then everything is selected. And then I move all of them at once. When you're working in SPSS, just use the default as it is. Keep the default. Don't, if you're not sure, don't mess with it. So just keep the default here. We click on OK. And now in the output, you'll see there is the descriptive statistics. That's the percentages and frequencies. So you can see public and private there with the frequency and the percentage. Now what you do here is you go through this here and see if there's any options that's marked here that's illegal, not illegal, but it's wrong. It's maybe a typing error or some sort of error. So you go through all these categories and see if you get anything that's an error. So that's the verification. And then if you work with continuous data, you'll use this analyze descriptive statistics descriptives and look at the minimum and maximum values. Okay. That's how you do your verification. Somebody's microphone is on. If you can just mute, please. Okay, is there any questions so far on, you can just let me know in the comments if there's any questions so far on SPSS, on the process.
They said if someone is
you can just type in the comments, or just put on your microphone and ask me quickly. Okay, see, no questions at this stage. The video is recorded, so I'll put it on YouTube, and then you can go and watch it there again, because I go through quickly here to try to cover a lot of things.
Yes, I have a question. I
Yes.
just want to check,
Yes.
because I joined a bit later. I just want to check how you are checking the data and how you loaded it in. I've seen the others. I've done that. I know how to punch in the information into the computer, into Excel individually. So, but I don't know how to check it.
Yes, now how to import it into SPSS. Yeah. Sorry, you're asking about how to import it, or how to go and check it in SPSS, in Excel?
Yeah, you can explain, because I don't know how you started, but I've joined you when you were sort of like, trying to import. Yes.
Oh, okay. You can just go and watch the video, because I explained how it looks in Excel and all of that. Because I'll put the recording on YouTube.
No, it's fine. Then I'll get it on the recording.
Okay. Say if you get some error here. Say you went through your data and you saw there's an error in, let me just go to the output window. Say, for example, this 3 here is an error. This is not right. Then to locate this 3 here in your data set for position, you go to your data, you go to position, it was A5, and then you just right click on it and you sort, say, ascending, and you just put off this labeling here, and then you go and you look for the 3 here. So that's a quick way to locate if there was any errors. And then you go to the ID, say that was 3, that was a wrong value, and you go to the ID and you go to your Excel and you see what was the problem. Or you must actually go to the questionnaire if it was captured. Okay, so that's how you handle your errors. Okay, but I don't want to go too much into that. Okay, now the next step is to do the validation. Now, I will not do the validation. I explained the validation that was done by Prof. Piet Venter. So, and that was exploratory factor analysis. So validation is done here. Analyze, dimension reduction, factor. That's where you do validation. But usually you will not do validation. You use a validated questionnaire already. So you will just look at the reliability and calculate the Cronbach Alpha. Now, if you remember the validation, let me just go back to that. Let me just go back to the validation. Okay, if you remember the validation here from the factor analysis, you know which of these questions forms part of which construct. So we know that questions 2.8, 2.9, 2.10, and then 2.17, 18, 19, up to 28. All of these is part of the first construct. And this first construct was called strategic leadership. If you read through all these questions, it will be about strategic leadership. So what we'll do is we'll calculate the Cronbach Alpha now for strategic leadership, and then we'll do it for strategic objectives, which is the second one here in blue. Question 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, and then 2.13, 14, 15, and 16. That's all part of strategic objectives. And then the last one is this 2, which is the third one, which is core competency. So you'll calculate the Cronbach Alpha for each of these 3. And you must do this even if it is a validated questionnaire. And you report this in the, your research methodology. So we'll do that quickly. Okay, I'll just do one of the liabilities and with a Cronbach Alpha, and then you must just know the rest of it must be done. So for each of the constructs consisting of a few Likert scale questions, you must test the liability. So to test the liability, we go to analyze, we go to, where's the liability? Scale. We go to scale reliability analysis. So analyze, scale, reliability analysis. That's to calculate the Cronbach Alpha. You see there the model, it indicates alpha. Now we choose all the questions that's part of this first construct. These Likert scale statements should have been made ordinal when we did this first step with the labeling. I didn't do all of that because we don't have time to do all of that. Now, let me just fix that quickly. Otherwise, people will get confused. So this must be ordinal. It's all Likert scale statements. And you can just copy and paste again in the same manner. Okay, ordinal. Okay, let me just go back to the analyze, scale, reliability analysis. And now we look at strategic leadership. So it's 2.8, it's the first one. Then 2.9, 2.10, you just keep down control to choose a lot of them at once. And then it's 17, 18, and then it just goes up to the bottom. So all these questions is part of strategic leadership. We move it to the right, to the items. Then in statistics, you click on statistics. You choose scale. You choose scale if item deleted. So this is the 2 options you choose. Then you click on continue. And you click on OK. So that's the Cronbach Alpha. You'll see here reliability statistics. You look at this Cronbach Alpha here. If it's above 0.6, it indicates acceptable reliability of these questions here. Just one thing to note, this corrected item total correlation, if this here is negative, then it means that question is unreliable. And then you'll see that this Cronbach Alpha here will also be higher. But in this case, it's 0.96. So these questions is reliably measuring strategic leadership. So what we can do now is we can calculate the composite score for these questions to measure strategic leadership. Okay. Now we will do this for the other two constructs also, but we don't have time. So we will, you just do this on your own. You just repeat this process for strategic objectives and then for core competencies. So the Cronbach Alpha for that too must also be done. Now, that's now testing reliability and validity. Now the next step is calculating construct scores. That's the next step. From these reliable constructs that we have. So for the next step, I just go back to the window. Here's my data set. And I want to calculate a construct score for strategic leadership. So I go to transform here. That's where you do any calculations. I do click on compute variable. And then you'll see on the left, the target variable. That's where you give your variable name. You can't have any spaces or special characters. So I'll call this strategic leadership. And then underscore leadership, strategic leadership, and underscore construct. Or I'll just call it score. I put in the underscores because you cannot have spaces in here. Then on the left, this is where you do your calculations. What I want to do is I want to calculate the average of these responses to the Likert scale statements. So to calculate the averages, you go to this function group here on the right, and you just go down and you choose statistical. And then you choose mean. We want to calculate the average of these questions. So now we move this up here. So we click on this button here, this arrow. We move it up. So there's the mean. So the mean will be calculated for all the questions from the construct that we put in there. So we'll do the first one, which is 2.8. 2.8. And then there's a comma, 2.9, comma, 2.10, comma, and then you must put in all of them one by one. 2.17, comma, 2.18, comma, 2.19, comma. I just double click on it and then it moves it. 2.20, comma, 2.21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Just make sure here, there's commas in between each of these variables, which is the Likert scale statements. So what will happen is it will take the mean between the brackets of all these variables. So we want to calculate the strategic leadership score now. So you click on OK. You can see in the output, it says compute and execute. There's no error showing there. And then we go back to the window, the SPSS window, and then you browse to the right. Just browse to the right. There's your strategic leadership score. And you'll see it's continuous now. See that 3.33. So that's the score out of 5. So 3.3 is just above neither. This person here is at 4.6, which is towards strongly agree, between 4 and 5. And this score here was the average of these questions making up strategic leadership. So you'll do the same for strategic objectives and for core competencies. And that would be your 3 variables that is part of the quality of strategic leadership that you'll use in your research. And then what you'll also do is you'll calculate the score for organizational performance. So let me just go there. Oh, it's not open, sorry. So you'll do it for the quality of strategic management, the 3 constructs, and you'll do it for all the other scales and constructs that you have in your questionnaire. And then organizational performance, we want to do this also. That's very important because this would be the dependent variable in a regression, because we want to see what's the influence of strategic leadership, strategic objectives, and core competencies on organizational performance. So let me just go there. Let me just do that one, calculate that one, because I want to show you correlation. So you can just reset, and we want to say organizational performance. Okay. And then we go to statistical again. We choose mean, and organizational performance was these questions here. That must be ordinal. I will set it up as ordinal just now. And obviously, organizational performance, these 3 questions must also be tested for reliability that we did previously before we can calculate the score. Then you click on OK. We go to the window again, and there's the organizational performance variable. So you do this for each and every construct in your questionnaire. Okay, so that's the calculation of the construct scores. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is just some tables that you use a lot when you look at your descriptives and also look at your means and standard deviation. So we did the descriptives already when we did the cleaning, but now at this stage, the data is clean, the verification is done, the reliability is tested, and the scores is calculated. So now we do the actual descriptive statistics. So you go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, the same we did last time. You click on Frequencies, and then you choose all your categorical variables. That's exactly the same that we did for the verification, but now your labels will be done and your data is clean. You click on OK. In this case, mine is not labeled, but yours will be. And then you can use these descriptive statistics already, these percentages and frequencies in your, when you report your biographical information. What you look at is you look at the valid percent here, because the valid percent will also incorporate missing values, or will, if there's missing values, it will calculate the valid percentage here. So in this case, the private companies is 53% and the public companies is 47%. Of 29 private companies and 26 public companies. So that's how you get your percentages and frequencies. Then if you want to do your descriptive statistics for your continuous variables, and this is now your construct scores, you go to descriptive statistics and you go to descriptives. Now you choose your continuous variables, and that would be scale in SPSS. You see the scale there, and it's this one here, and this one, and that one, and all the other constructs that you calculated. and you move it over and you click on OK. Okay, then you'll see you get the minimum and maximum, you get a mean and standard deviation. And you can do that for all your continuous variables. That's to calculate your descriptive statistics. Then something else that's used a lot is when you want to make a table with the percentages and frequencies of the constructs, then you can use a custom table. I just want to show you that. And then, yeah, we must stop. I think we can have another webinar also going further in statistical analysis. Okay, let me just show you this. So to do a custom table, we go to Analyze, we go to Tables, we go to Custom Tables here. You click on OK. Then I'm just showing you one big table now, throwing everything together, just to show you what you can do. So say you want to, let us take the first construct. I want to take the first construct, all these questions, Likert scale statements of the first construct, and I want to make a table for that. So I click on all the Likert scale questions that's part of this strategic leadership construct now. And then I move it here until it becomes red, and then I drop it. Then, and this is the trick now, you click on the category, you go to category position here. You click there and you click on row labels in columns. And then you click on continue. Okay, this gives you the count. What you can do is you can also choose percentages, or you can change this a lot. Let me just put in percentages. So one thing that you can also, yeah, let me just show you that, percentages. That's just the frequencies. So if you want to do percentages, you just click on this side here. You make this yellow. And we want to do summary statistics. And you see there's the count. And say if you want to do the row percent. You move it over and you apply to selection. And you close and you click on OK. And then you get your percentages. So that's a nice table for your descriptive statistics. I just want to show you one statistical analysis or one graph, a histogram, and then one statistical analysis. Then we can maybe have another webinar. Okay, so now you know how to do your descriptive statistics. Let me just show you how to export this. So say if you want to get this into Word, for example, you can go to File, Export here, and then you can put it into a Word document. But what it will do is it will put all of this into Word. Or you can just right-click here and you copy and paste. Let me just do the copy and paste to get your output into Word. Okay, so I open Word. I just right-click here, then copy, and then I open Word and I paste. Okay, sorry, this is not, let me just, it didn't pick it up correctly. Unformatted text. Okay, if you sometimes the word is not set up correctly. My SPSS is loaded just recently, so it doesn't pick up the correct format. Okay, let me just, this rich text must be put in here. So just make sure this is correct. So if you right click here, copy special, just make sure rich text is ticked here. Okay. And then you paste. Now it's in RTF format. Okay, that's, now it's into Word. So now I can use it in Word. Okay. Then I just want to show you one histogram and then a correlation, and then we must stop. I have another appointment, but I told the people they must just give me some time. Okay, so let us just go back to SPSS. Okay, just one graph. So if you want to do, say, a histogram, you want to see the distribution of the strategic or the organizational performance of that variable. So you can go to graphs, you go to legacy dialogues, and we go to histogram. Because we want to look at the continuous variable now, which is strategic leader, is, say, this organizational performance that we calculated. That's the variable. And you can click on display normal curve also, and you click on OK. Okay, so this gives us the histogram of organizational performance. And it's at 2.3. Remember, it's a 3-point scale. So it's sort of above average, and it's a bit skewed to the left here. That's the histogram with the mean and the standard deviation. And if I want to put this into Word now, just right click, copy, and then I paste it into Word. Okay, so that's how you do your graphs. So for your graphs, you just go to graphs, you go to legacy dialogues, and you choose your graph here. Okay, that's your graphs. Now I just want to show you one statistical technique. Just one. Say we want to look at a correlation. So we want to see, let me just go to data set. We want to see the correlation between strategic leadership and organizational performance. What's the correlation between the two? If there is better leadership, is the performance better? So we want to do a correlation. So we go to analyze. This is where we get all our statistical techniques. And we go to correlate. We want to do a correlation. We go to bivariate. It's 2 variables. So bivariate. And then in this case, we want to choose strategic leadership and organizational performance. That's the 2 we want to choose. And then you click on OK. Okay, now you can see there's the correlation. So strategic leadership, the correlation here, that's the correlation coefficient, is 0.595. It's positive, and I would say medium strength, or according to Cohen, it's strong if it's 0.5. Then there's the significance, the p-value. If it's smaller than 0.05, we say it's significant. In this case, this value is very small. It's smaller than 0.05. So this correlation here is significant. So we could say there's a significant relationship or correlation between strategic leadership and organizational performance. And then the strength is 0.6. So I would say of medium strength. Okay, I must finish now. There's a next consultation. Is there a quick question in 1 minute? What I'll do is I'll put this video on the YouTube channel, and then you can go and look at it again. Is there a quick question from somebody?
Yes, Prof. Mr. Keba.
Yes.
On YouTube, How do you search it? How do you search? What is your
Oh, okay. What I'll
name?
do is I can you can search for liminal research quant. Henny Gerber, liminal research quant. But I'll send the email. I can send the email also, and then you can. Sorry.
That would be appreciated if you send an email with the
Yes.
link or the name
Yes.
of research. Yeah.
Yes. If you want to do a course, I can give you a discount. There's an online course that you can do everything thoroughly with videos. Then you can just let me know. There's videos on everything in SPSS, looking at the whole thing. It's a very thorough course. Then I can give you.
But
one
just for
month
curiosity,
access.
for the
Yes.
For SBL students, aren't we having some leeway to use this SPSS and get or the course that we're paying for MBL for research? Are we not granted that permission to have access to that?
No, it's a private. It's it's mine. They must actually buy it from me or something. This course.
So it's not included from the course?
No, unfortunately, no. It's from my own. I'm from Liminal Research. I'm only 1 day a week at UNISA. But I'll do another webinar. I'll do another one for the SPL students, and you can also look at the YouTube channel. That will not cost you anything.
Hi, Mr. Gerber.
Yes.
Does UNISA have the software?
Yes, yes, they have SPSS. There's a campus license for it, so you can just ask your supervisor. I think they must give permission or something, and then that the IT people just help you to load it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So everybody, all the students at SPL can get access to this. Yeah.
The SPSS version, which version is this one that you're using?
Okay, this one is now 26, and I have a license for 26. So you'll get this one. I got this one only recently. That's why my Word was not working straight, because I'm not using. I just use SPSS for workshops and for SPL students, but I use SAS Jump for myself. SAS Jump. But yeah, just you. So you'll get version 26, and then you'll get a license code for it also. So you must just ask your supervisor. I don't know who's the person that's. I think it's Tony or something, but the IT person at SPL to help you with the installation.
No, thanks.
And yeah, and then what I'll do is I'll send the email to everybody with the link to the YouTube. There's also a previous video of 2018 also on SPSS. Okay, is that fine with all of you? I went through very quickly, but when you go through the video, you can look at the steps.
Yes, please just send us the information on how to access the video.
Yes, I'll send you the link to the YouTube. But I must first load it, and what I want to do is I want to put in the at which minutes something happens. I can put it in the index. So then you can just click on this minutes and say at 10 minutes I talk about the liability. Then it's easy to access it. So you must just give me a bit of time to fix that before I upload it. Okay, everybody, I must go now. You must have a nice day. If there's any questions, you can contact me, and you can have a consultation on Zoom.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, but you can email me if there's any problems. I'm available on Fridays.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Bye. Bye.